Why is my car in Brandon's driveway? I asked, blinking at the photo on my phone like my eyes might be playing tricks on me. It was a Tuesday morning, early spring. I had just finished replacing brake pads at the small local shop where I work part-time. My hands still smelled of metal and engine oil when the text came through, sent by my neighbor, Mia. There it was. My midnight blue Dodge Challenger. The car I had poured every paycheck, every ounce of sweat, and every prayer into, parked right outside my cousin Brandon's house, like it had always been his. I didn't sell it. I didn't loan it. No one asked me. I called my dad in disbelief. His voice was calm, almost rehearsed. Alyssa, honey, it made more sense for Brandon to have it. He's starting a family. I stared at my phone, heart pounding like a misfiring engine. Was I dreaming? Was this some twisted joke? But no. My dad's voice had been steady, final, like he'd made peace with a decision that didn't even belong to him. I didn't respond. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just grabbed my keys, my other keys, not the Challengers, and walked out of the garage into the dry Arizona sun. My name is Alyssa Carter, and I'm 27 years old. Born and raised in Prescott, Arizona, where the summers fry your skin and the gossip travels faster than the desert wind. I'm a mechanic, well, more than that. I'm a grease-streaked, tool-wielding, full-on car whisperer. That Challenger? That wasn't just a car. That was my freedom, my fight, my proof. My family never believed in me. Not once. Not when I told them I wanted to go to trade school, not when I got certified, and definitely not when I started building custom engines in a friend's dusty backyard shed. You're too smart to be getting dirty, my mom had said once. You're too emotional for business, Dad had added. The unspoken part? You're a girl. Stay in your lane. Brandon, my cousin, was the golden boy. He could do no wrong. He flunked out of college. They paid for him to re-enroll. Wrecked his second-hand Honda. They bought him a new one. Cheated on his girlfriend. They blamed her. And me, when I got straight A's, they said I was trying too hard. When I fixed my first car, what if you ruin the engine? When I saved every dollar to buy the Challenger, you should be saving for a wedding. But that car, oh, that car, it wasn't just fast. It was mine. I had worked on it piece by piece, month by month. I'd stripped the engine myself, tuned it, replaced every busted part with love, and scraped money. I picked up double shifts at the shop, sold custom keychains online, even pawned my iPad once to afford new tires. It took 3 years. And when I finally drove it off the lot, a used but fierce 2018 Dodge Challenger in deep sapphire blue, I remember crying behind the wheel. I pulled into my grandmother's house that day, and she came out, wiping her hands on her apron. Looks like it belongs to someone who finally believes in herself, she smiled. Grandma Jean. The only person who ever really saw me. That kitchen, it still smells like lemon pies and lavender. She would always say, "Baby, the world will take from you if you let it. So own something no one can touch." That was the Challenger for me. It was untouchable, unshakable, or so I thought. Until today. Growing up, I'd always been the helper. The one who babysat all the younger cousins, ran errands for my aunties, helped fix stuff for free because you're so handy, Alyssa. But when it came to serious conversations, when it came to respect, they'd talk over me, tell me I was too intense or too proud. And Brandon? They called him future CEO. Even though he never finished anything. Not school. Not jobs. Not relationships. That's why I couldn't breathe when Dad said he gave my car to Brandon because he's starting a family. So what? I wasn't starting a family, I wasn't married, so I didn't need transportation anymore? Or was it just that I didn't matter? I sat in my tiny apartment that night, lights off, phone buzzing with messages I ignored. One from Brandon. "Hey, thanks for the car. Didn't expect it, but I appreciate it. I'll take good care of her." Take care of her? He once asked me what a timing belt was. I was shaking. Not in rage. Not yet. It was deeper than that. It was hurt. Pure, deep, ancestral hurt. The kind that doesn't scream. It just simmers. And builds. I scroll back to a photo from a year ago. Me in the shop, covered in sweat, grease under my nails, smiling next to the Challenger, holding up the title deed. My name, my work, my signature. How did it become his? That's when it hit me. I needed answers. Legal ones, financial ones, and emotional ones too. Because this wasn't just about the car. This was about years of being unseen, unheard, unvalued. The next morning, I went to the county office. They confirmed what I feared. The car title had been transferred by my father, using a power of attorney I'd signed 2 years ago to help him refinance his mortgage. He had used that document, my trust, to move the title. Illegally? Maybe. Morally? Absolutely. I walked out of that office holding the paperwork, heart pounding in my chest. My reflection in the window looked back at me. Broken?
No. Awake.
Grandma's voice echoed in my head. Own something no one can take. And then just like that, something clicked. It wasn't random. For the last few months, I had been quietly investing in shares of the auto dealership I used to work at before opening my home-based repair business. It was my side hustle, small investments here and there, through a friend who managed employee buy-ins. I never told anyone, because I never wanted them to talk me out of it. Because I knew if it worked, it could be my real shot at independence.
And now?
Now, I didn't just want a shot. I wanted the whole damn board. 3 days later, I walked into Hugh's auto dealership with a folder under my arm, denim jacket rolled at the sleeves, boots dusty from the morning shift. To everyone else, I was just another ex-employee walking in for a visit. No one looked twice. But inside that folder was power, and they had no idea. A few months back, when Hugh's Auto was struggling, the owner, Mr. Carmichael, had quietly opened up shares to a small pool of former employees and clients who were loyal, hoping to keep the place afloat. I didn't blink. I emptied half my savings and started buying in little by little, learning the trade, understanding shares, watching meetings on mute during my dinner breaks. Mr. Carmichael and I had stayed in touch. He respected me, saw my work ethic. He knew I didn't have much, but what I did have, I gave fully. So when he called and said, "Alyssa, we're selling a bigger portion of the company. You still interested?" I didn't even hesitate.
Yes.
All in. And now, standing in the cool air of the dealership, the engines humming quietly from the showroom floor, I wasn't just Alyssa the mechanic anymore. I was a partner, not a majority owner.
Not yet.
But enough to sit at the table. Enough to make decisions. Enough to change things. A few days later, I scheduled a family meeting. I told my dad I wanted to clear the air. We met at my grandma's old house, neutral ground. He showed up with Brandon. Mom came too. My uncle sat quietly in the corner, already uncomfortable. I let them talk first. "You've been distant," Dad said. "We were just trying to help Brandon get on his feet," Mom chimed in. Brandon gave a half smile. "It's not like you needed the car right away, right?" That's when I pulled out the envelope and slid it across the table. "You might want to take a look at this before we continue." Dad opened it. Inside, copies of the dealership stock certificates. My name, my shares, my vote rights, and a letter signed by the board. Effective immediately, Alyssa Carter, associate partner, Hugh's Auto. The silence hit like thunder. What is this?" my father asked, blinking. "It's what I built with the money I earned. It's called ownership," I said, voice steady. "I thought you were just fixing cars," Mom whispered. I was. And I still do. But now I also make decisions about where they're sold, how they're sold, and who sells them. Brandon leaned forward, eyes wide. "Wait. Hughes? That's where I was hoping to get a job. I put in an application last week." I raised an eyebrow.
Oh.
"Did you?" I leaned back slowly and smiled. That's awkward. They didn't know what to say. They sat there, stunned, like the ground had shifted under them. But I wasn't done. "You used a power of attorney I gave you for something else. Something that mattered to me." That was betrayal. You didn't just take a car. You took trust. You took effort. You took years of my life and handed it off like a hand-me-down.
Dad, look down.
Mom's voice trembled. We thought you'd understand. No, I replied. You thought I wouldn't fight back.
I didn't yell. I didn't cry.
I just let it hang there. I didn't get mad. I got better. Then I pulled out one more paper. A letter of legal intent. I had contacted a lawyer and had started the process to legally challenge the use of that power of attorney. It wasn't about getting the car back. It was about making it clear I wasn't afraid anymore, and that I had receipts. Brandon stood up. This is crazy. It's just a car. I looked up at him, calm and cool. Then why do you still have it? He didn't answer. So I continued. You don't get to enjoy what someone else bled for. You haven't earned that right. By the end of the meeting, no one spoke. I packed my folder, stood up, walked toward the door. Just before leaving, I turned around and said one last thing. You all made a choice.
So did I.
The difference is mine made me stronger. Back at the dealership, Mr. Carmichael met me outside the glass doors. He handed me a fresh key fob. We upgraded our demo inventory. This one's yours if you want it. I looked down at the matte black Challenger SRT.
Faster.
Meaner.
Mine.
Yeah, I nodded. I think I do. Brandon didn't take it well. In fact, no one did. 2 days after the family meeting, I got a long message from my mom,
Full of phrases like,
You've embarrassed your father. Families don't take each other to court. You're overreacting to a gift. We were just trying to support your cousin. I didn't reply, because I finally understood something Grandma used to say. Just because they raised you doesn't mean they respect you. The next blow came quick. Brandon came to the dealership, not as a customer, as a loud, angry, entitled man-boy on a mission. He stormed into the showroom where I was walking a new client through financing options. His voice cut through the air. So, this is how you treat family now. Everyone turned. I slowly turned too.
Calm.
Steady. You should leave, Brandon. You had no right to humiliate Dad like that. He helped you when no one else did. My jaw tightened. He helped me? He stole from me. Oh, come on, it's just a car. There it was again. That phrase. Just a car. I stepped closer. No, Brandon. It was my work. My years. My investment. My identity. You took it because you thought I wouldn't fight. But now you're standing in a building where I have authority. So again, leave. He looked around, waiting for someone to back him up. Nobody did. Even Troy, one of the older sales guys who'd known my family for years, stepped beside me. You heard her, he said. This isn't a place for yelling. Or freeloaders. Brandon stormed out. But the fallout had only just begun. At home, Dad tried a new tactic. Guilt. He sent me old photos, me as a baby on his shoulders, me helping him in the garage, birthday cards. Then came the message. I made one mistake. Are you really going to destroy the family over this? I sat on my balcony that night, staring into the sunset. The Arizona sky was bleeding oranges and reds, hot with memory. I remembered being 10, working with Dad on an old Ford truck. I had scraped my knuckles, trying to remove a bolt. He had laughed and said, "Leave the hard stuff to me, kiddo." But I didn't. I kept learning, kept grinding. And now I knew how to rebuild a transmission from scratch. Yet I was still just kiddo to him. I called him the next morning. He answered fast. Alyssa, you didn't make one mistake. I cut him off. You made a series of decisions rooted in the belief that I wouldn't notice or wouldn't push back. You used a legal document I signed out of love and turned it into theft. And now, because I refuse to stay silent, you're calling me the villain? He sighed. I just wanted Brandon to have a chance. He's had plenty of chances. I only had one. And you tried to take that from me. Silence. I softened my voice just a little. You taught me how to hold a wrench. But Grandma taught me how to hold a boundary. 2 days later, Mom showed up at the dealership. Unexpected. Wearing sunglasses indoors like someone in denial. She waited until I was off my shift, then pulled me aside. We're losing your father, she said quietly. To what? I asked. To guilt. To stress. He can't sleep. He's barely eating. I looked at her carefully. You're not here for peace. You're here for permission. You want me to make this easy for you again. She didn't answer. I continued. When I got grease on my clothes, you said I looked like a boy. When I wanted to buy my own car, you said no man would marry a woman who out-earned him. Now that I've done both, and more, you want me to shrink so Dad can feel big again. Suddenly, her voice cracked. You think this is about gender? This is about respect.
Exactly.
And I finally have some. For myself. She turned and left. And it hurt. More than I thought it would. But it was the kind of pain that builds a backbone. That night, my phone buzzed. It was a message from someone unexpected. Brandon's fiancé. Hi, Alyssa. I know things are tense, but I wanted to thank you. You inspired me to walk away. Brandon's been lying about money, job interviews, and a lot more. I didn't want to believe it. But seeing how you stood up for yourself, I realized I could too. She attached a picture of a packed suitcase. And in that moment, I didn't feel victorious. I felt responsible. For the first time, someone had found their voice because I used mine. A week later, Troy, my colleague, came up to me and said, "We're starting interviews for new junior techs. I thought you might want to lead it." Me? You're a partner now. Don't just fix cars. Start building the team that fixes everything.
So I did.
I trained 2 women fresh out of trade school. Watched their eyes light up when they installed their first engine part solo. Corrected them gently. Celebrated loudly. And I kept my office door open. Always. Because I never wanted another girl to feel like she had to ask permission to belong in a garage. I didn't want revenge anymore. Not the old kind anyway. Not the kind that burns everything down and walks away smiling. I wanted something better. Redemption.
Growth.
Boundaries.
Peace.
A month after the showdown at the dealership, I decided to call a family meeting again. This time at my place. Small apartment. 2-bedroom. Clean, modest mine. I set out lemonade and slices of the peach pie Grandma used to make. The recipe was still stuck to my fridge in her handwriting. They arrived slowly, Dad, Mom, and even Uncle Drew. Brandon didn't show. I didn't expect him to. This time, there was no yelling. I began. I didn't ask you here to fight. I asked you here because I'm moving forward. And you're welcome to be part of that, but only if it's mutual. No guilt. No manipulation. Just respect. My mom shifted uncomfortably. My dad sighed. I don't even recognize who you are anymore. I smiled gently. That's because I've grown. And growth by nature changes people. I poured the lemonade. Passed around slices of pie. No one spoke for a minute. Then, surprisingly, Uncle Drew did. Your grandmother would be proud, you know, he said softly, not meeting my eyes. She always said you had the fire. That cracked something in me. I let it sit. I didn't cry. Just nodded. I'm trying to use it for warmth now, I replied. Not just for burning. That evening ended better. Not whole, but better. No apologies yet. But understanding had entered the room. Sometimes, that's the first sign of healing. Later that week, I met with my lawyer and made a final decision about the car that was stolen under the power of attorney. We could have dragged it through the courts. But instead, I drafted a solution. A written agreement that relinquished pursuit of the car in exchange for permanent financial separation from my family. No more co-signing. No borrowing. No legal or financial ties.
Clean.
Sharp. Kind. They signed it. Because deep down they knew this was the only bridge left that hadn't burned. A few days after that, I called Mr. Carmichael. You still looking for expansion plans? Always, he chuckled. Then I want in. Not just as a partner. I want to lead the new garage we're opening in Flagstaff. Hire the team. Run the place. Build something from the ground up.
He paused.
You're ready, he said. And I was. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for approval. I wasn't begging my family to see me. I was looking at myself and liking what I saw. One night, I was closing the garage after hours. The new girls were gone, and I was sweeping the floor in silence. My phone buzzed. A message from Brandon's ex again. Started school. Learning welding. Loving it. Just wanted to say, thanks again. Attached was a photo of her in safety goggles, sparks flying behind her. I smiled, set the phone down, turned the lights off, and whispered, keep building. In that quiet moment, I realized something. My revenge wasn't in destroying anyone. It was in rising so far they could never deny me again. It was in showing others how to do the same. 6 months later, the new garage was humming with life. Flagstaff Automotive and Performance stood tall beneath crisp mountain skies, its glass doors gleaming, the smell of fresh paint and new beginnings floating in the air. And on the sign out front, beneath the bold black letters, was a smaller line in elegant script. In honor of Grandma May. People asked if she had founded the place. I always smiled and said, not the garage, but the grit. The team I hired was 80% women. Not because I was excluding anyone, but because they showed up hungry, humble, and willing to learn. We had one guy on the crew, Eli. Quiet, respectful. Used to be a schoolteacher before the economy shifted. He told me once, I've never felt this respected in a workspace. That was the culture we built. Respect. Boundaries. No one talking down. No one stepping on necks to climb. One day, I caught Mia, my youngest tech, talking to a customer about oil viscosity with the kind of authority most men twice her age couldn't fake. The customer, older guy in boots, raised an eyebrow and asked, you sure about that? She smiled, popped the hood, and walked him through every number on the dipstick and filter specs. He nodded slowly. Well, damn, he muttered. Guess I should be asking you for lessons. And just like that, another wall fell. Brick by brick. Not by force. Just by being excellent. Back at home, things had shifted too. My dad had started texting more. Small things at first. A photo of the old Ford truck we used to work on. A YouTube video about engine restoration. A simple, hope you're doing well. I responded.
Short. Calm.
I didn't invite him back into my life fully. But I stopped keeping him out entirely. Because part of healing is allowing space for change, even if you're not sure they'll ever take it. One evening, as the Arizona sky turned its famous orange gold, I stood on my porch with a glass of lemonade, Grandma's recipe still stuck to my fridge. The air smelled like lemons and motor oil. I closed my eyes. And I remembered something she told me when I was 17, crying after failing my first driving test. It's not the will you need to control, baby. It's your own belief. Everything else comes from that. I smiled, because now I believed in myself, in my power, in my right to take up space, even in oil-stained jeans and steel-toe boots. A week later, I was invited to speak at a local women's trade event. They introduced me as owner of Flagstaff Automotive, mentor, mechanic, trailblazer. I stepped up to the mic. I never set out to start a movement, I told the room. I just wanted my car back. Laughter. Then silence. Then nods. But along the way, I realized something even more powerful. The people who try to take from you the loudest are often the ones who fear your light the most. Don't shrink. Shine harder. Applause.
Tears.
A standing ovation. Not because I was perfect, but because I was free. And in the back of the room, I saw someone I didn't expect. Brandon. Not front and center. Just barely inside. Watching.
He didn't speak.
Just nodded once. And left. That was enough. I didn't need a sorry. Just the silence that comes when someone finally realizes you were never small. They just couldn't handle your size. A few weeks later, I visited the old garage one last time.
Just to see it.
The space that once felt like home and heartbreak all at once. There was a new sign over the door. Different owner.
Different vibe.
But I stepped inside anyway. The smell of rubber and gasoline hit me like a memory. I smiled. Then I placed a photo, me and Grandma, holding hands in her garden under the counter. No words. Just a reminder that roots matter, even when you outgrow the soil. As I walked back to my truck, my own truck, keys jangling in my hand, I felt the cool breeze lift my hair. And I knew I wasn't just driving away from something anymore. I was driving toward everything I built, everything I earned, everything I became, because they gave my car to my cousin. So, I bought the dealership. And then I built a life no one could ever take from me again.